Sarai Garza, and today we'll be speaking about the Chicano Student Movement here in Kingsville in 1969. What is your full name and today's date?
I'm Manuel Flores. Today is August 27th, 2023.
Okay, and do I have permission to record this interview?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The Chicano Student Movement was a civil rights movement where students fought for equal rights in many areas, including the classroom area. Um, what was your participation in the student walkouts in 1969?
Well, I did two things. Number one, I was a reporter for the South Texan and for the San Antonio Express. And really, I was a correspondent for the San Antonio Express. So any time that there was some type of protest, some type of movement, sometimes of a formation of Chicanos, I would be there. I used to have a white Falcon, 1961 Ford Falcon, and pretty soon the police recognized it as being where the protests were, and I didn't know that I was letting the people know where the Raza Unida and Maya were meeting, but I started to be a telltale, so I had to hide the car. And it's a long story, but it was interesting that they followed me to find out where La Raza Unida and Mayo was. That's very interesting. So my participation was mainly as a reporter. And that was very good because I was able to not only talk to the protesters, I was able to talk to the police and other city officials about how they felt about La Raza Unida and the Mexican American Youth Organization protesting. And of course I participated in some of the planning that was done.
And how did people feel about the protests? Like how did they feel about what was going on?
There were so many emotions. Number one, the Mexican Americans, especially the men, were angry. Were fed up with some of the things that they were doing for us. And this particular little city that we live in, which is beautiful and I love it, was kind of a racist place. And it was out in the open. This campus was kind of racist at the time when we first got here. It's not anymore, thank God. But when we first got here, it was racist. I mean, so they would not let Mexicanas stay at the women's dorms. They would not let Hispanos stay at the men's dorm. They would not allow you sometimes to be a fraternity or sorority member. In fact, they had guides against it. They would not allow you to run for student government sometimes. So that was here. That was the university, our university. And around the campus here, where all the little houses are that people stay in and stuff like that, they wouldn't rent to you. City Kingsville did not have an open housing ordinance, so we, the Mexicanos, including the South Texans, started a petition to go out and fight against the university's lack of an open housing residence. And we petitioned the president, President Jernigan from the Jernigan Library, and he agreed. So he made a whole page editorial in the Kingsville Record and a small one in the Corpus Christi Color Times, asking the people of Kingsville and Clayburgh County to stop discriminating against his students, our students. And we got an open housing resident. We did. And we had a big talk with President Jernigan to ask him to bring the demands that we asked for. More Mexicano studies, bilingual education, which we had. Mexicano studies we had, and now it's come back again with the Mexican American Studies Institute. And just basically open housing and that we be allowed to join the fraternities and sororities. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it happened. And people don't want to believe it. So when old people like me start going away and dying, the stories may fade away, which is what makes what you're doing so important. At least it'll be documented somewhere.
Yes. Do you
Okay.
think there was immediate change when
No,
you? No.
um, there was not immediate change. The change is still happening, very gradually. This is still changing. Um, the programs that we have now are a little stronger when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that's supposed to be a better word now in the state of Texas and Governor Abbott being in charge and all those other people being in charge. Not supposed to talk about that, but it's a little better. It's a little better. So we at least have seen a gradual move towards that. And the administration here was, excuse me for saying this, primarily white professors and white administrators. It changed just 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we got Dr. Vela and Dr. Silva and Dr. this and Dr. that and all this stuff. We started to make some change progress, and it happened gradually, and it's still happening. Right now, because of the politics in Austin, we're going to lose some of that momentum that we got. And it's sad because this Texas is our Texas. Texas was our land. Texas was what? New Spain in the 1500s? It was New Spain. And then it became Mexico after the revolution in Mexico. And then it became Texas. And then we became part of the United States. We were even part of the Confederacy here as well. We fought in the Confederacy as well. People don't know that. Oh my goodness. Uh, our vaqueros fought in the American Revolution. They supplied George Washington with cows and troops and rifles and stuff. They were there. Every Spanish citizen donated here in New Spain and in Old Spain to the American Revolution. People don't know that. History majors don't. Why don't you know that? I'm just asking. I'm being silly. I'm being facetious.
No, no, no. There is a lot that is hidden. I personally didn't know about helping in the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
The vaqueros helping the revolution, but I think it
With
is
money,
great.
not only physically,
Mm-hmm.
with money. They taxed us. Spain taxed us to help the revolution in America. Well,
It is very interesting. Um, Going back to the student walkouts.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, 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 it's perfectly fine. How did you first hear or start participating in the walkouts? In
Well, first we had to get organized. We were not that many Mexican American students. We may have been, when I got here, 2%, and then we grew to 5%, and eventually, by the time I graduated, we were almost 10%. So we came here because this school was one of the few schools that accepted us. I mean, yes, the University of Texas took one or two. They still just take one or two, but we were applying for college, and we wanted to better ourselves, to go to school. And so a lot of these people, men and women, we came here with a hunger for education. We wanted to learn. We even told the teachers, teach us, damn it, teach us, we're here. And they wouldn't. And not every professor would allow students into their classroom because they were Mexicanos. Of course, it was always harder. You had to struggle to get a good grade, and they always questioned, did you plagiarize this? And stuff like that. And I'm sorry I made the white man accent, but did you plagiarize this? It was very difficult. So eventually, we tried to become part of the A&I campus. But I'm sorry, you can't be in student government. I'm sorry, you cannot belong to that sorority or that fraternity. Are you kidding me? Who the hell do you think you are to tell me that? We said, okay. And then we'd get together at pachangas and barbacoas, and we would say, "Oye, vato, this is crazy, man. Who do these people think they are, man? This is America. And we just want an education, man. Sí, no, hombre." And we would talk like that, you know. And pretty soon, leaders started to emerge. Jose Angel Gutierrez, who had been in Crystal City with the PASO movement, Political Association of Spanish-speaking organizations, was here. He came from Uvalde, Southwest Junior College, and he started having talks and speeches. And no, hombre, lo que tenemos que, so we have to do is organize. We need to form our own political party. We can't even get elected to student government here, which was true. Student government here in Kingsville. We have to have our own political party and organize. Okay. And so he did, and he went on to be the founder of La Raza Unida Party. He was a graduate from Texas A&I. And then there was a young man named Carlos Guerra. He wound up being a news reporter for the San Antonio Express News. And Carlos Guerra came up and started talking, having little rallies just to try to organize. And although Jose Angel and his group in Crystal City formed the Mexican American Youth Organization, he did it here. So he tried to rally people to join the Mexican American Youth Organization and provide a list of grievances to the administration at Texas A&I and the city of Kingsville and Claiborne County. He really did that. So Carlos was a national champion debater, the only one that I know of from Texas A&I, Texas A&M Kingsville. And so he would get in front of the student union building or the speech building, and he would just talk. He was such a motivational speaker. And so when he talked, people listened. And he was a kid from Robstown. His father and mother owned a restaurant, I believe, there. I don't remember too good. And so people started listening, people started coming. And then he went off and did a little bit of training in radicalism, which, you know, we all did a little bit of training in radicalism back then. And he was able to become a spokesman for the university. Then Carlos became a columnist for the South Texan. While he was there, he said, we need to do more. He spoke very well. We need to do more than just organize and talk. We need to get the rest of the university, meaning the white and black people, to believe us. So he formed a speaker's corner. Well, no, he didn't form it. He said we should have a speaker's corner. So his columns were so radical that he got banned from the South Texan eventually. So we formed the Speaker's Corner. That was the name of the place where the press club, the Texas A&M University Press Club, would have speakers forum, and we would have a forum and talk about different things. And soon, everybody started to, we gotta stop this. We can't continue to have this. And then we got the rest of the city involved, Kingsville involved. And of course, we did an open housing petition as well. All of that took place, all of that actually happened, all of that came to be. We asked for bilingual education. Carlos Truman, the state senator, Irma Rangel, whose statue was here, and so they petitioned the state government, saying what we're doing down here. Now, one of the big keys to the Chicano movement is that it was primarily the youth, primarily people your age, who just got fed up. We said, ya basta, enough. We just got fed up. All we wanted was a good education. That's all we wanted. It's all we still want, believe it or not, but the kids are not as motivated as we were because they're not, it's not denied to them like it was to us. And so all of those different things happened within the campus of Texas A&I, and then we went statewide. We went to the valley and participated in the onion strikes in Raymondville. And other protests, the farm workers protests in the valley, we protested there. One of the artists, Carmen Lomez Garza, she was a student teacher at Robstown High School, and she noticed the way they were being treated. So it's not just Kingsville. She was being treated, and she led a protest at Robstown High School. Anybody knows that? What a character of a woman. And there was where she determined that she was going to continue to show her art and bring the Hispano to life with her art. And she did. And she did. Carlos Guerra wound up being a nationally syndicated columnist for the San Antonio Express News. His stalls are great, and he did most of the stuff in San Antonio, but he never forgot A&I. He always came back to A&I and said, let's do this, let's do that, and then they listened to him. So both Jose Angel Gutierrez and Carlos Guerra are part of our Hall of Fame, University's Alumni Hall of Fame. So that's how we got involved. All of us were involved in something, all of us. And our parents didn't like it. They were afraid that we would get thrown out of school. So what the hell are you doing this, Manuelito? If you're gonna get thrown out of school, we're paying good money to send you to go say work. We're paying for my tuition at least, or my dorm. I forget what they were paying for. Said, and of course they said, the gringos are still in charge. They're gonna throw you out. Well, I survived. That's all that matters. So that's a brief synopsis of what happened with the protest. You know, one thing that's very important, the movements that we had, the protests, the talks that we had here, were not supported by the overall general population of Kingsville and Clayburgh County, but they were supported by the professors, by some key professors. So these professors would go to every one of our rallies, every one of our speakers' corners, forums, and stuff like that, and they would just show up. This white professors. In fact, Dr. Elber was one of them. Dr. Bittinger, who is still alive, was one of them. God, I don't know how old he is. Who was still alive, was one of them. And then different professors would show up. Some of them, of course, were gone already. So they added to the mystique of the Raza Unida movement and of the Mayo movement, in particular the Mayo movement. They were always there. And they would answer questions about why we were doing this when their friends would come and ask them, what are this boy's doing that? They would say something. So very interesting dynamic, very interesting.
There were protests here in the university, but there were also protests like in Gillette. I don't know if you participated or were in any of that.
No, I was there for the Gillette movement. I was there. Gillette's a middle school. What's a middle? It still is a middle school.
It still is, I think.
Okay, middle school here in Kingsville, and basically the students were, junior high students were complaining about the way they were being treated. Because back then at the junior high level, they wouldn't let you speak Spanish. And so they would either punish them or give them a bad grade, which is, if you're in education, I want to give you a bad grade because you're trying to get educated. It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of it. I'm being facetious, but it's true. And so they wanted more Hispanic teachers. That's the same thing that all the protest movements do. They wanted to be treated with dignity and respect, essentially. So the Mayo movement here at Texas A&M started meeting with them because they came over and asked us, what can we do? I said, well, you need to take over, you need to protest, okay? So I was there reporting for the South Texas and for the San Antonio Express as a correspondent, and first of all, I witnessed the organization of it, and there's a story in here about that too. You might give you one of my books.
Thank you.
Okay. And so they organized it, they decided to protest, so Mayo met with the students and some of the parents, not all of them, and said, okay, we're gonna protest at a certain day, we're gonna walk out of the school at 3:30 or something, I forget the exact time, it's in the story. And sure enough, that happened. Well, the students walked out, and Maya was coming from the campus, walking towards Gillette, which is about half a mile down the road, I'm not sure exactly. And so we met at the same time, it was coordinated. The leader was Carlos Guerra, and I can't remember the full name, but Carlos Guerra was the leader, and so the leader of the students and us met. In the meantime, all of the other students came out, they couldn't control them, which often happens, and the parents were there, and of course the cops got there, okay? And so Carlos Guerra started to talk, and the student from the junior high or middle school, junior high back then, started to say some words, and about that time, the police started to come in, walk towards, he was by the flagpole, it's still there, the flagpole is still there. So to make the story easier, the Brown Berets were also there. I don't know if you've heard of the Brown Berets.
A little bit, yes.
They were supposed to be a paramilitary unit of Chicano students. Well, they dressed in brown and with a little brown beret, and they looked like guerrilla fighters, but not really. We were harmless, but we were there. Of course, they were like this, all looking very, very, very strong and defiant, right? Looking defiant. You have to look defiant at the very least. You're not gonna scare anybody. Just look like defiant. Look like you can scare somebody. So we all did. Well, they all did that. I was there with the cameras and stuff. So sure enough, and then this old man, is a custodian, and right now I cannot remember his name. Started moving forward and kind of like, well, trying to confront Carlos and the students from Gillette. So as that happened, the Brown Beret, which was about 25 to 30 people, took a step towards him too. That's awesome. Took a step towards him too, and so calmed down, and Carlos kept on talking and stuff like that. And he had promised the police a non-violent protest, that there was not going to be any pushing, shoving, shouting, nada. And of course, he and the Mayo people trained the students at Gillette to behave, what to do, when to say, when to talk. So it was all taken care of already. And sure enough, Carlos Guerra had a Mayo flag. It's red and black and stuff. The flag is in my friend's house right now. And so he starts to put down the American flag to put up the Mayo flag. And at that time, the students from Gillette started yelling very well and stuff. The Brown Berets, however, never flinched. They were just there. Okay. And so he took the flag, took the American flag down. It didn't dishonor it. That's another Mayo member held on to it, and he started to put up the Mayo flag. And at that time, that man, the janitor, came up and started to take it away from him. And we didn't know what was going to happen. That's the one time we didn't know what was going to happen. But basically, Carlos said to me, okay, go ahead. And put it back up. And then the police stepped in. And what do you think they did? They arrested everybody. Arrested all the students, not from Kingsville, but from Gillette, because they were out of school and it was against the law or some stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they arrested all the students, or here goes 150 middle school students to the city jail in Kingsville. There they are. And then the mother started crying, "Ay, Dios mío, mi hijo, que le pasa de mi hijo," and all this stuff. It's a true story. I can't make that stuff. So, anyway, so then my tío was there already. And he had come here in case there was problems so that he could book them and say plead not guilty and do all that stuff, because that was what the Mexican American Legal Defense Education Fund did. So they jailed him, but they didn't jail Carlos. They didn't want to cause more of a stir here at the university. And so then the Mayo people from the university said, "What are we going to do?" And then one mother came out, my son is very hungry. He doesn't know what to do." And I said, "Oh, it's okay. No se mortifique. Don't worry, lady. We'll take care of you," in Spanish. He said in Spanish. So they went to some burger barn and bought 100 hamburgers, and they brought him, and the sheriff let him feed the students there. Well, we were very happy as Mayos. I was there taking pictures. And there's a picture of that in the South Texas, by the way, in the archives.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, that actually happened. That's the hamburgers that they got them. But no, then the students from Gillette said no, and they started throwing the hamburgers. I said, "Damn it!" But I'm sorry, I'm not. So anyway, that was a Gillette protest, and it's in here in the book, in case you want to see it. Okay, so there was one sample. One time, and nobody knows this, we actually took over the president's office and demanded that the changes come. It was only a handful to a dozen people, but President Jernigan said, "Yeah, I'll talk to you." And he instructed UPD and KPD to let us come. I'm expecting them, let him come. Oh, the brown berets were there. They were dressed like brown berets. And we walked all the way to the president's office upstairs, and one of our leaders sat on climbed the president's desk and sat down, with his legs crossed. And then he said, "What do you boys want?" We're all boys, no women were there. And so we presented the list of demands, which are in the South Texas. There you go. We want to make sure what it is we asked for, it's there. And then the South Texan published them too. Well, of course, I just told you that. And so we said, we can do this, we can do all of this. It's going to take time. It's not going to be overnight. It might take decades. And it has. It's taken decades. So then President Jernigan, he said, "Don't touch them, let them in. They're my students. Let me talk to them." And he was the only white man there and administrator there. Of course, they were out in the hallway and stuff like that. But to his credit, he told UPD, "I don't want you to draw a gun," and asked KPD to do it. And everything went very well. We left out very, very, very happy. And he said, they came and interviewed him, the TV stations and stuff. "This is what they asked for. I don't see anything unreasonable here. We're going to try to make some of these things happen." So there was a big protest. Nobody heard about it. Nobody, except the people who were there. He swore us to secrecy. So, yeah. It happens. So anyway, those are some of the things. I mean, and of course, how many protests were there in South Texas? How many school walkouts were there in South Texas?
Well, there were many. I think, like in small towns, like in Kingsville here, and Robstown, and
Sure.
several. I feel like there were many, but I don't know if the changes were what the students were expecting.
It takes time. We had to, there some of the racism is ingrained even today it's part of systemic discrimination. It's built into the system. My goodness, why are so many people beat up by the cops? It's systemic discrimination, systemic racism. So it takes time, but there was as many protests here or more than in California, and everybody thinks California was a place where it happened because of the movie, which is a very good movie, by the way. And we had at least 70 that I have discovered, or me and my friends have discovered doing research. So it happened here. It was a hotbed. Of course, La Raza Unida went nationwide. La Raza Unida formed a political party. La Raza Unida had governors, people running for governor and lieutenant governor and attorney general and all that stuff. Just because they were in La Raza. Now, some people say, nobody's going to vote for La Raza Unida. No, they voted for it. 7 or 8% of the people in Texas voted for him and became a legitimate political party because of the efforts of one of our graduates, Jose Angel Gutierrez. So we contributed a lot. In the meantime, in the quiet corners of the classrooms and stuff like that, in the hallways, something wonderful was happening. Have you been to the Bailey Art Gallery? The art gallery here?
No.
Something was going to go worldwide. The Chicano art movement was born here. In our university. At least it took root here, and it's gone what? International. Some of our artists are recognized worldwide for the stuff they did. And the silly thing about it was that they wouldn't let them do Chicano art. What's Chicano art? I said, well, I'll show you. Oh, no, you need to do a Western painting or something. And I'm not making fun of the professor and stuff like that. But they were defiant. And they wanted to change art that was in between Mexico and America. They didn't want to do some of the stuff that the Mexicans did. They wanted to do something that we did here for us, for South Texas and Texas. And I'm sorry if I got excited, but it's true. And so Chicano artists are all over the place, thanks to our university. I mean, they're in Paris, they're in Luxembourg, they're all over the place. And they learned it just across the hall here from us. It's amazing.
Yes,
Anyway, that was part of what was going on. And eventually we could stay in dorms and join sororities and all that. Eventually we could. But that's why we protested. And my goodness, and who cares about dorms and stuff like that? But we wanted to get an education. And I know that's Pollyannish of me to say that, but that's all we wanted, a chance to get an education. Because this university was, and is still, a university of opportunity. Some of us would never have gotten the opportunity, and the Chicano movement would never have taken off if we hadn't all been here at the same time. With a hunger for education and a hunger for freedom. Anyway.
Oh, well, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Okay, sure.
Yes.